This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Debut. Sing it with me. Debut. Debut. They are making their debut.
They are making their debut.
Making films for you to view.
Making films for you to view.
Directors guiding and yelling at the crew bahoo, the crew bahoo, the crew bahoo, the crew bahoo, bahoo.
The crew bahoo, 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 the crew bahoo.
Yeah! One official take.
One official take.
Oh, we're calling it one official take.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I VeggieTales has been in my since I've had kids, I've known VeggieTales. So it's like, hey guys, how familiar with VeggieTales? Thinking you guys would be like, oh yeah. No.
We know a song.
They know the VeggieTales theme song.
Thanks for having us sing at the beginning of the night, Kent.
You're welcome. Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Zack.
We'd like to thank you for listening to our last show.
My name.
Yeah, you're Zack.
Give me a second.
That's Kent. Thanks for listening to our last show, our pet shelter organizing episode.
Organizing. Yeah, I like the way that sounds.
Yes.
Organizing.
That's all it was. We were just organizing.
There was a little bit of confusion regarding that third category.
The farm.
The farm.
Yeah.
There was a suggestion by Crew Duttler to name it Youth in Asia. Thought that was,
the farm is called Youth in Asia?
something about helping
So young
youth,
animals,
kids from Asia,
on a continent.
therapy.
Sure.
Youth in Asia. I don't know.
Okay.
What was it about?
Yeah.
Spencer Myers said, pretty sure Baconsale had the same temp agency as the Three Stooges.
Yeah, because they get all the different jobs every short.
If you were a Three Stooge, which one would you be? Save it for that
That's
show.
a good question.
Am I Mo? Am I Mo?
Am I currently?
Yes.
That makes me Larry.
Or Shemp.
Shemp. And then Johnny English says, sequel, please. I laughed way too hard at Garfield's end.
His end? He's still roaming free
What
on
do you
the
mean,
farm.
He in Asia?
Yes, he's in the Youth in Asia.
Which, by the way,
farm.
we made a terrible mistake. We put Gizmo in the window.
Yeah, I didn't even think of the logic through
I
that.
said that.
You did. We didn't listen.
Well, no, we got UV. It's a UV thing.
Okay,
it's
thank
not
you.
sunlight. It's
All right.
UV, and I know a tint guy. He's actually
you've got a tint guy.
I don't know if it's UV because when they do a picture of him with a flash camera, he freaks out at that.
This is the reboot, the gritty reboot.
yeah, easily.
Different rules.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's I got a tint guy. I'm a barber. I got a guy for everything. What are you talking about?
Makes sense to me. But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Zack?
Debut of your favorite directors.
If you haven't,
and maybe
by
your
the way.
least favorite.
If you haven't, by the way, you should go listen to Larry's Silly Songs, the Song of Cebu.
I only know the hairbrush one.
That's a great one, too.
That's a good one.
Barbara Manatee. Save it for our Silly Songs tearing episode.
Wow. VeggieTales? My kids are getting older. Mm-hmm. We only got so long.
Yes. No, but as you mentioned, we're talking directors today, but kind of in a different spin on that. Mm-hmm. Because every director has to dip their toe in the cinematic waters at least some point in their life.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all successful, right? It always goes well.
Come and go.
Well, I mean, we're talking about moderately successful directors today.
Yes.
But they may not have always been that way.
So each one of these directors had their feature film debut, where that's their first, test shot at getting something out there in theaters. Some of them may have had work before, either in theater, radio, or television, or even like short films and music videos before. But this is their big feature length in theaters film that could put them on the map. And sometimes it did.
Are we the problem with pop culture? Baconsale, I mean, because do people think about
We're the solution,
right? Do people think about directors as much as we do? Do
No.
people just see a movie and they go, "Oh yeah, it looks good," and when they're like, "From the visionary director of," people are like, "I don't care."
No, I really don't think they do. I think that the average individual probably gravitates more toward an actor than a director. And I legitimately cannot think of a single actor in Hollywood that if I saw that they were attached to a project, I would go see it. But you tell me that Christopher Nolan's directing something, I'm interested. Steven Spielberg.
Anya Taylor-Joy?
I said what I said.
Tom Cruise,
Nope. Actors are no appeal to me. It is literally who's making the film that gets
Roberto
me started.
Benigni.
What? No, Christopher Nolan.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
but
like,
is that new though?
I think so
Is it
because
more-
there's been a lot of discourse around the death of the movie star. It's not about the star, it's about the character, right?
Or the
Nobody
franchise
cares,
itself.
or the franchise. Nobody cares
Right.
about Chris Evans. They care about Captain America.
Yeah.
There's more about the image of I guess you go back to the superhero thing, but I think directors have kind of come through, because if you want a movie that's consistently good and you like something that a director has done, I think that there's a decent chance you might like something else that they would make.
I mean, think of it this way, that the director is the CEO of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're the ones kind of making all the final decisions, saying this is the look and feel and kind of tone that I'm going for on a movie.
Or sometimes they're just, and we'll talk about these examples, they're just handed keys to the car. And they're like, hey, we've already got a project. The script is there. It's been cast. Please do something with it.
Yeah. And a lot of times the failure or success of the movie reflects directly on the director. He's kind of where the buck stops.
Yeah.
I mean, you get...
unless people really want to defend the director, but the movie's bad, and then it's the studio's fault.
Yes, that's how it works.
Listen, it's often the studio's fault.
Well, it's the push and pull. The studio being
really
the
is.
producers, like the people who put the money and want to make something out of it, and the director's kind of running the ship.
Right.
He's the captain of the ship. And if the ship goes astray, you can blame it on the crew or you can blame it on the captain. Depends which side you're on. So we have, Kent and I have picked 7 examples.
Very specific number. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
7 good examples and 7 bad examples of a feature film debut from a director.
7 is a better number than 5.
Whoa.
Are there 5 days in a week? No, there's 7.
Save it
7,
for our number tiering episode.
Tier 1, 7 is a tier 1 number.
Is it just because it's like a holy, is it a sacred number?
No. Do you think that I care about that?
But like with this, we're going to talk about the fact that some of these directors, when they first movie came out, it's like, wow, they really hit the ground running. Good for them.
Yeah.
Like right out of the gate, they're doing great. And there's other directors where it's like, wow, I can't believe they got another shot after making this.
Which I'm
crud.
glad some people did.
Yeah, because some people have had very successful careers after having not so successful film debuts.
Indeed.
So are we doing like a least bottom, top?
Yeah, let's start with the
it's
worst.
not really ranked. I'm kind of. Are we going just like in order?
I'm going in chronological order.
Okay, so this is
from the
my
movie,
best.
from their film debut.
Not a ranking.
Yeah.
Just a journey through time.
Just an example. We're given a list here of just, and some of these may surprise you about what their first movie was or who they turned out to be after their first
For
movie.
me, it's personality based.
Yeah?
That's how
You're
I'm
ranking them based on
Yeah, the
personality
director's
based?
personality.
Okay, that makes sense.
Probably.
7 good, 7 bad.
So that's
Yeah.
7 bad, 7 good.
Would I go on a Maverick
7
run
bad.
with them?
We'll
see.
Very important thing. Some
if
of them
they're
are
a
dead.
director-
So
If they're a director in Hollywood, probably no. In general,
Yeah,
I would say
that's a good idea.
no.
and it was funny because like there is a whole Wikipedia page of list. It's a list of feature film debuts. You can go by decade and see all these directors and all these movies. And at first, when I was looking at it, I was like, "Are we going to have enough to fill an entire
Yeah.
episode?" And I have like 20 something honorable mentions that will probably never get brought up because I was like, "There's so many of these I could talk about."
Will you blitz through them at the end?
We'll see.
Okay.
Some are worth mentioning, some are not, and they're more for me being like, "Holy cow, that
Wow,
was
really?
their first movie."
All right. Since we're just going, are you going to go chronologically as well, Kent?
I'm going to try.
Okay. We'll ping pong back and forth, starting with you, Joel.
Sounds great.
You're on a roll. Keep going.
Probably appropriate because I'm going to go for the oldest pick here because
Okay.
I am the oldest here in the room. Let's just face it.
Are you?
Yes, I gum my Taco Bell.
What's your favorite candy? Mine's Werther's, and my favorite restaurant is Cracker Barrel. Checkmate.
He's always getting injured. His back is horrible.
Yes. No, I'm going. I'm going with a 1926
Wow.
movie.
You win.
It is called The Pleasure Garden, and it's directed by Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to know more about all of Alfred Hitchcock and his films and everything in this movie, we talk about it a bit there too. You can listen to Baconsale episode 175, The Men Who Knew Too Much About Hitchcock. But this came out in 1926, like I said. The synopsis is 2 couples' romances are fancifully intertwined. If you don't know who Alfred Hitchcock is, he directed things like Psycho, The Birds, Vertigo, Rear Window, Dial M for Murder, Rope. These very suspenseful and mysterious and clever films. And then he does this one, which is just kind of... It's just a little romance story. And
was
it's
he
just,
doing TV before this?
I know he worked as a technical clerk at a copywriter.
Sure.
He worked as a title card designer. And that's a lot of these. What I'm going to talk about is like how they got their break.
So was this way? I mean, obviously it's the 20s, right? So
Yeah.
film was not
They're
where it
making, like-
was in 1960.
They're making
for
like
example.
600 movies a year.
Yeah, like
one
was this
studio.
made on the
Yeah.
cheap, where it almost feels so independent?
Yeah, but he worked, and he also worked. Then he got on the film sets and was working as a co-writer, art director, production manager on at least 18 silent films before doing this one. And it's not good. It's not good.
I don't remember anything about it. We
We're
watched
on the
50.
bottom list. You named a good director.
Yeah.
I just connected that.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
a good director on a bad movie, bad start.
You
But
love Hitchcock.
I do, and I'm glad they gave him a second chance because this movie.
Did you go back to
meh.
our notes? Did we hate on this one? We did
This
our
one
show?
was really slow. Like that's what we said. It's like it's not that long of a movie, but it still just takes forever to get where it needs to go.
How could you do this?
And it's just
That's the thing, though. It's like subverting. It's like it's a good director.
You know more about Alfred Hitchcock than Jacob.
That's true.
What?
Take that, Jacob, if you ever listen to this episode.
He doesn't.
But yeah, so that's my pick is Alfred Hitchcock. Not a great start.
Actually, I'm curious.
And not a great ending.
Yeah, that's true. How many movies did it take him to kind of catch his stride?
I don't remember. But we probably talked about that on the episode when it finally
Nobody's going to break his stride. I know that.
Doesn't going to slow him down. He's got to keep moving, this guy.
Because I'm trying to think when he made his first major hit or when he maybe started working with Cary Grant. Like maybe in the 40s.
Well, that's just it, is that he had a whole big, long career. And a lot of his earlier movies, they aren't at all suspenseful. But he does have the one, The Lodger, A Story of the London Fog, which came out a couple of years after this one.
I remember that one.
It actually is kind of suspenseful and cool.
How long did it take to get a movie that you've heard of? Not you, but like the general you.
Yeah, go through the filmography. What do we have?
Good question. Probably The Man Who Knew Too Much, 1934.
Okay, that took a minute.
Bill Murray.
No, that's a little different.
Okay, so it took him 8 years to come up with a movie. Obviously, he still got work. It's not like people hated him for these movies.
He's been chugging along.
But it took 8 years for there to be a movie that's celebrated through time, basically.
Yeah. Kent?
Okay. My first choice is Catherine Bigelow.
Oh,
so
the
Catherine
director
Bigelow,
of The Hurt Locker?
Yes, indeed.
Is she related to Deuce?
Don't bring up Deuce Bigelow on this show. Have we talked about Deuce Bigelow?
No, I don't think we have.
Do you want me to go for the whole title?
Talk about Catherine, please.
Okay. Rob Schneider. We could have a not Rob Schneider tribute show.
You talked about that many times.
Tell me about Catherine with a Y.
Now, one thing Joel and I wanted to clear up is sometimes there's a student film that these directors came up with. Sometimes there is like an independent film that was lost to time because some of these directors have that.
Even Alfred Hitchcock, his first movie, was lost and was unfinished.
So I'm going, and this one is maybe kind of a cheat. She co-directed her first movie, which I actually can't really blame her for, but this is a bad one. It's called The Loveless, and it was made in 1981, and the synopsis is: trouble ensues when a motorcycle gang stops in a small southern town while heading to the races at Daytona. This is Willem Dafoe as a biker gang leader.
Okay, I can see that.
And it is his first credited role. He's always looked like Green Goblin, just a younger version. And this movie, I watched it today, so boring.
Yeah.
They just sit in a diner all the time. It ends in a gunfight, and there's nothing exciting about this movie at all. And I'm kind of like, Catherine Bigelow, like, what's up? Because her very next movie was called Near Dark. Mm-hmm. And if you're a vampire fan, we talked about this on the Vampire Show. Yes.
Granted, this was 6 years later.
Yes.
But her next movie was Near Dark. Go on.
Yeah, so Near Dark is has Bill Paxton in it. Great vampire movie. Her movie after that was Point Break.
Blue Steel.
Okay.
Was in there?
Steel. Yeah, was that Jamie Lee Curtis?
Jamie Lee Curtis is a cop.
I don't really remember that one.
But that was released in 1990.
Yes.
Point Break was 91, though.
Yes. And then we have some strange movies like, Strange Days. We have K-19, The Widowmaker, and then she hit it big in the 2000s with The Hurt Locker, and then the next decade with Zero Dark 30. And then Detroit was one of her big ones as well.
She's like Academy Award winner.
Yeah, she just became this prestige director, which I've always thought of her as, she did Point Break. That's so cool.
Going from Point Break to Hurt Locker is just so far.
Yeah, what a weird
two
path.
points there.
And she is an Academy Award winning director at this point, made history, but The Loveless is so dull, and it's honestly, I don't know, 70 minutes long, not even worth your time.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, skip it. But she went on to do amazing things.
Joel?
So I'm going back from Kent, but forward in mine, if that makes sense chronologically.
By the way, 1981 is when I was born. It's when I started watching movies.
So when movies started to
20s.
matter.
Wow.
No good movie came out in the 70s.
Yeah,
That's kind of
exactly.
the running gag as a kid has not seen a movie before 1970. But no, I'm choosing a director, a sci-fi director. You may know him from such films as Star Wars Episode 4,
Oh, boy.
1, 2, 3, and American Graffiti, and this movie, and that's it. That's all he's directed, because I'm talking about George Lucas. And his first movie, his first feature-length released movie is THX 1138.
I'm a little upset about this.
Why are you upset
Talk about
this?
the movie, and I'll
Okay.
talk about why I'm upset.
So first of all, if that sounds familiar, THX, it's because that was the sound system that pioneered thing. Yeah.
That's not even the sound.
And if 1138 sounds familiar, it was like a room at USC, and it's in every Pixar movie. It's an Easter egg.
It's like a little Easter egg. Every time you see the word letters THX or 1138, it's a reference to George Lucas. So this movie, here's a synopsis. In the 25th century, a time when people have designations instead of names, a man, THX 1138, and a woman, LUH 3417, rebel against their rigidly controlled society. This stars Robert Duvall and Donald Pleasance, came out in 1971.
Did Elon Musk name these characters?
It had a budget of, and I want to point out the specific number here, of $777,000 and 777.
Zack loves 7.
All sevens.
Seven's the best number.
That's creepy, by the way. Why
a
do you
little
do
weird.
that?
It's just one of those weird things.
It's lucky.
Were they like $3 off and they're like, hey, someone go buy a Blizzard? Go get me a Blizzard.
This is 1971. They were
like
having a lot of blizzards.
But it made $2.4 million.
Joel, I kind of like this movie.
I know you do.
Donald Pleasance?
Maybe Donald Pleasance, yes. What I want to talk about first, I'll talk about the movie. Because the movie, to me, it has a unique look. It's impressive. They could do so much on a small budget. It is slow. It is tedious. It is not my style of sci-fi. But I can see the fingerprints of THX 1138 in Star Wars. I can see kind of how they came together. And that was 6 years later that Star Wars came out, I believe.
Well, I mean, he made a prominent movie. His very next movie,
American Graffiti,
doesn't line up with the rest of George Lucas' filmography.
No.
But American Graffiti is slow,
overrated,
and not for everyone. But I like it.
Yeah.
It's got.
But can we say a little overrated?
I also don't like American Graffiti, but that's just me.
American Graffiti overstays its welcome, but it's not bad.
It's not bad.
No,
It's not bad.
Yeah.
But it does It's
In
too
fact,
long.
I like seeing The Range. I'm glad he wasn't just a
He didn't
full-time
direct the
sci-fi
Range. I
director.
think that was Kevin Costner, I think.
Yeah. And then obviously Star Wars in 1977.
Yeah.
And then just kept doing Star Wars. And then a bunch of movies that nobody will watch.
But that's the funny thing is, like, he only directed like the Star Wars movies, American Graffiti, and THX 1138. That's it. I do want to point out once again how he got into the industry. He was taking classes about film, and when he was the teaching instructor for a class of U.S. Navy students for cinematography, he made this short Electronic Labyrinth, THX 1138 4EB. That's right, it was a longer title before.
Wow.
And it won a prize at a festival. He ended up getting a scholarship at Warner Brothers to observe a film of his choosing. He chose to watch the making of Finian's Rainbow, which was being directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
Okay.
And because of that connection with Francis Ford Coppola, he got a shot at making his first feature film.
His filmography, like his like, you know, the chronological filmography is hilarious, right? THX 1138, 1971, American Graffiti 73, Star Wars 77, Phantom Menace 99.
Yeah. He didn't have to work after that.
Holy cow.
He was done.
because he was
I think
producing.
he knew his strength was not directing.
No, it is not.
No, he actually, his strength, if you look at his...
It's writing, obviously.
If you looked at the stuff that he's produced, is a lot more...
His story concepts are great.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, he was one of the camera operators for the classic Rolling Stones concert film, Gimme Shelter.
Really?
That picked up in that because our last episode was called Gimme
like
Pet Shelter.
that a lot.
So that's how he got in the industry. That's who he was. I don't like his first film. A lot of people do. It only has a 6.6 on IMDb. So I'm not the only one who doesn't think it's all that, but I'm glad they gave him a career after that.
Kent, what else do you think is not all that?
I'm going to read the synopsis first.
Okay.
A scuba diving instructor, her biochemist boyfriend. I think it's her son in the movie. IMDb. Anyways, they're a little too close. And her police chief ex-husband try to link... What? Okay, I'm just going to read this as is. It goes against the story.
Go for it.
And her police chief ex-husband tried to link a series of bizarre deaths to a mutant strain of piranha fish whose lair is a sunken freighter ship off a Caribbean island resort.
Wow.
The movie is Piranha 2, The Spawning. Zach, who directed this movie?
Oh, there's no way I would know.
There's no way. Think of one of the best directors of all time. who makes
Alfred Hitchcock.
He makes one movie every 10 years at this point.
Oh, yeah,
James Cameron directed.
Hold on. James Cameron, and he made a sequel. But
Yes.
it was Piranha 2?
Piranha 2.
His first movie was a sequel, is what you're saying.
What?
So I'm going to give a little background on James Cameron. So he's from Ontario, born in 1954. He loves studying film, but he's just working like end jobs. He was a truck driver, actually. But he's like, I am destined to be in film. And it was actually him seeing Star Wars that made him quit his job. And he said, I'm doing this.
Really?
Yeah. Obviously kind of changed the game. And so then he just did odd jobs on film sets. He was the special effects director for Piranha 2, which the version I saw on YouTube is called Piranha 2 Flying Killers.
That's not the title.
The Spawning.
So the director of the movie quit because the producer, and that's where we talked about like butting heads. The producer brings in the money. The director says, we need more money.
Yeah, it's like
We
a
need this to
manager
happen.
and an owner
Right.
fighting it out.
And so the original director of Piranha 2 quit because the producer was that hard. And they said, hey, special effects guy, will you film our movie? And so James Cameron says, this isn't my movie. This isn't my first movie. I had no say. I had no control on this. I'm the special effects guy. And by the way, the special effects are pretty awesome because all the special effects are flying piranha that jump out of the water. Say you're comfortable on your sailboat and a piranha with wings flies out of the water and attacks your neck. Are you watching the trailer
I'm
now?
watching the trailer, and this piranha
It's-
just jumped out of a dead body.
Okay, that's the best part of the movie. Okay, here we go. Thanks for reminding me. So there's someone that dies, and they find the body, and it's like all chewed up. And so these people go into the morgue, and they're like, "We got to find out the reason," and they get kicked out. And then the mortician.
Wait, they get kicked out?
They get kicked out. The mortician comes in and goes,
"Oh, okay.
Like, hey, you got to get out of here. I'm going to call the cops." The mortician's like, "Okay, let me just do my studies, blah, blah, blah." And all of a sudden, they lean over to the ground, and a piranha that's still living in this body that's been out of the water for 3 days comes out of the wound and bites this woman's neck.
Gosh.
Piranha 2 is ridiculous. It is a horrible movie.
But it's directed by James Cameron, who is known for big budget action.
Let's talk about where he became to prominence right after that.
2 years later? What
2
movie
years
came out?
later, you get The Terminator. 2 years after that, you get Aliens. 3 years after that, you get The Abyss. 2 years after that, you get T2 Judgment Day. 2 years after that, probably the weakest spot and still awesome, you get True Lies.
True Lies is great.
I love True Lies.
It was amazing.
I love True Lies,
Yes.
for the record. But like that's probably if that's your lowest.
I think the lowest is probably...
Don't you say The Abyss.
No, well, actually, I don't love The Abyss.
Probably
Avatar.
Piranha 2.
Oh, no, I'm just saying in that stretch of 10
sure.
years following. He made one garbage movie and then it was like, oh, I'm going to show you that's not what I do.
Where did he get
Because
this talent?
His decade from Terminator to True Lies from 1984 to 1994 is got to be one of the most prolific stretches
That's
in
a hot
director
streak there.
history.
That's a hot streak right there.
And then after
what,
that,
3 years after
later,
that?
you get Titanic.
And you get the highest grossing movies of all time multiple times.
And then he doesn't need to do anything ever again other than make money.
I think he just hangs out at the Titanic in the ocean at this point.
Oh, shoot, I got to make another movie. Oh, this one made $2 billion. Awesome. Go bought me another decade.
Yeah.
Oh, that one made $2 billion. Cool.
Yeah, Piranha 2.
Piranha 2.
I was going to say, you were affected by this so much. I believe that's your Twitter handle, isn't it? Piranha 2 DD.
It's actually just Kenny 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
The first one died.
Yeah.
Joel, surprise me more.
I'm not going to surprise you too much because we actually talked about this director before on episode 358, Lynchian Dynamics.
I actually was here.
Because this is David Lynch, and his first film was Eraserhead. And I don't
You hate
Feels
this
like
movie.
you're punching down.
I'm not punching down because David Lynch is one of those known to be a director's director. Like, oh, he's so deep, he's so amazing. And I don't honestly know how anyone watched Eraserhead and went, let's give that guy more money. Let's give him more things to do.
To be honest, I haven't been able to forget about that movie in like the worst ways
I
possible.
wish I could.
Yeah, but it didn't kind of mess you up? Like
Yeah.
the furnace lady?
Ooh.
And just
There was
the baby?
My kids listened to a song the other day. I can't remember who it was by. I think it was AJR.
Okay.
But it has the "In Heaven."
Oh, yeah.
Had the song, and I was like, "What?" And my eyes got wide, and kids are like, "What?" And I'm like, "What is this song?"
I think you mentioned that on the David Lynch episode.
Yes. So my apologies to Andrew for bringing this up again. But
he won't hear this.
I should mention the synopsis. Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child. This came out in 1977 with a budget of $100,000, and it made $7.1 million. It's mind-numbingly slow. It's disturbing. It's bizarre. And David Lynch is always. I think he was born with a camera in his hand. Like the guy's been like always trying to make film, and he made his first short film back in 1967. 6 Men Getting Sick 6 times. It's hard for me to say.
Not 7?
No, but not 7.
Doesn't
Sorry,
count.
lesser number.
Where did he get so messed up? Can we go into his psychology a little bit? Maybe we did on that show.
Save it for the David Lynch show.
Sarah the David Lynch Show, we already did 358, but go listen to it because it was an interesting episode. But yeah, Eraserhead is one that I don't know how he got more film opportunities. Oh, I keep assuming people know who David Lynch is. He directed things like The Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive. Twin Peaks is his thing.
I mean, his movie immediately following this 3 years later was Elephant Man.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah,
which is good.
movie.
But I do feel like he's definitely got a surrealist vibe to him, and all of his
And
work.
such a fan base.
Yes, and people love him, but not me. And I think it was a weird debut for him.
Kent?
The population of a small town disappears and is replaced by aliens that chase human flesh for their intergalactic fast food chain. This movie is called Bad Taste, released in 1987. The director is Sir Peter Jackson.
Oh, he made some bad stuff until he didn't.
No, he only made... actually, I'm saying he's a cult director at the beginning. I don't even know if it's bad because I saw this movie well after I loved his other movies, and I went, you know what? That's ridiculous. I kind of love it. But it's also not good. Like, objectively, it's not good. Subjectively, I have fun with it.
Personally, I feel like Lord of the Rings trilogy is the diamond in the rough in Peter Jackson's career.
Oh,
You don't like King Kong?
I love King Kong.
I don't like. No,
I liked King Kong.
I don't like.
Oh, you don't like the Beatles Get Back?
No, that one
They
I
Shall
liked.
Not Grow Old.
I could imagine that Joel's not a heavenly
like the
creatures
Frighteners?
person.
No.
You don't like Frighteners?
Frighteners is fine. It fell short for me, but I liked it. It was like, it could have been better.
See, because for me, Dead
The
Alive.
Hobbit. We're just going to name everything. The Hobbit.
So he did Bad Taste, which is a very cheap, gory movie. So he dropped out of school at 16 to save up for camera equipment, and then he bought a camera that was already at that point 25 years old because that's all he could afford. He shot Bad Taste over weekends for 4 years with him and his
4
buddies.
years?
He created all the gore. And it really was just like, they made the alien masks in his mom's oven because he was living at home at the time.
Nice.
And then he made another cheap movie like this. And then he did Dead Alive, which is also cheap, but I love that movie so much. It's so bloody. Bad Taste did debut at the at the Cannes Film Festival. No one really liked it, but it did become almost an immediate cult classic. But yeah, and then Peter Jackson became, honestly, for me, a director to watch.
But does it not seem weird that like his splatter gore horror at the beginning compared to Lord of the Rings?
But
know
you
what I mean?
see the horror,
like that bridge,
the horror elements in Lord of the Rings. I'm like, I get you, Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
I mean, this honestly sounds like you could be talking about Sam Raimi.
Yes,
I think that's a
Very
similar
similar.
trajectory.
which
there.
we could talk about him on
Right.
this.
honorable mention.
Joel, what is your fourth choice?
Yes,
of the first seven.
I'm going to say two names here. You're not going to know either one of them. Most people listening will not know either one of them. The Awakening is the movie. Mike Newell is the director. Now you're like, Mike Newell, who's that? The Awakening, what's that?
Robert De Niro, Robin Williams.
No, that's Awakenings.
Oh, the sequel.
No.
Like Aliens.
But this is one where we watched this, Ken. We watched The Awakening for the Mummy episode. And it starred Charlton Heston and Susanna York and someone else that was famous. I can't remember who it was. But it was one of the worst movies we watched. The synopsis: an archaeologist discovers his daughter is possessed by the spirit of an Egyptian queen. To save mankind, he must destroy her. This came out in 1980. Oh, and Ian McDermott. That's Emperor Palpatine's also in this. But I hated this movie because it's just so hammy and terrible and just it's awful. I did not like it. But then Mike Newell went on to direct such things as For Weddings and a Funeral, Donnie Brasco, Pushing Tin, Mona Lisa Smile, Prince of Persia, Sands of Time, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
I was going to say, I thought he did a Harry Potter.
He did. And he was actually the first British director of the Harry Potter film series.
Oh, wow.
Because he had
Chris Columbus and Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, they're not British, apparently. So Mike Newell, he...
What do you mean apparently?
I'm claiming him as British.
He took a 3-year training course at Granada
The guy
Television.
discovered America.
He got into theater, and then he was in British
from
TV
Spain.
shows, and then he ended shifting his focus to film direction. So he kind of did that. He actually directed also The Man in the Iron Mask.
With the Leo?
No, it was a 1977 made-for-television movie.
Oh, okay.
But that was his first feature-length project, but it wasn't theatrically, so we can't count that. But I just was kind of surprised that one of these guys that made a horrible mummy movie ended up directing such a variety of Donnie Brasco being this crime.
And working with Richard Curtis. Like, what a great... Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Mona Lisa Smile working with Julia Roberts, kind of a romantic one, and then Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So Mike Newell, bad start, but hey, he's got a career and he did some good work there.
It was probably his choice to have Dumbledore be as mad as he was. Thank you, guys.
You know what? It probably
Right on
was.
cue.
It probably was.
Yeah.
As a director,
He's like, I work with Charlton Heston. He chewed the scenery.
well, I was going to say,
Go.
primarily directors work with actors. They are directing the acting. That is one of their main functions. So bad acting sometimes, George Lucas, is because of bad direction. Just saying.
Feels like you're punching down.
Kent, who do you want to punch down on?
Zach, could you name the first 3 directors for the Alien franchise?
Okay, so we've got Ridley Scott.
Yeah, fantastic, right?
Yeah, every third movie is great. You've got James Cameron.
Oh, we just talked about him.
Bangers left and
What
right.
about the third one?
Donnie Brasco. What?
You're close.
David Fincher.
What?
David Fincher. What a lineup for directors.
Tell people who David Fincher is, Kent.
So David Fincher, he's born in Colorado in 1962. He directed some of the better movies of the past 20 years.
Seven.
Yes.
Zodiac.
Yes.
Gone Girl.
Yeah, love it.
The Social Network.
Right.
My favorite.
So he's
Actually, it's
really good with
fantastic.
lighthearted comedies.
Fight Club, Panic Room.
Fight Club. Panic Room. Oh,
This guy's got a dark edge.
So he directed Alien 3. And this is hot off the trail of Aliens.
Yeah.
The director of Benjamin Button.
Yeah. And so this was his very first movie. This one really does shock me. Basically, what happened is Alien 3, they had so many scripts. It was in development for years. It had a couple different directors. And finally, they're like, hey, this guy directs music videos by Madonna.
Tons.
And George Michael and Michael Jackson.
Billy Idol. Like so many music videos on his IMDb.
He was crazy. Just awesome. They said, let's get that guy. We need a visual guy to come in and do the third Alien. It's going to be fantastic. And oh boy, it wasn't. Mm-mm. And so he
directed straight up Paula Abdul.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So, and he didn't really like the process. This was a studio interference project. And so he doesn't really care for this one. And it kind of shows because then you get to see his like auteur vision later on. And I mean, he is kind of a perfectionist. And I wonder if it's because Alien went so poorly and because they even filmed this one without a script.
Because the studio's fault? Is that what you're saying?
No, truly, because the studio says you need to just film scenes. We don't have a script. Just make the actors do stuff. And I think that's why he does, and he currently has actors do scenes 80 times to make sure he gets the perfect shot. So yeah.
It's like the one guy with the other movies.
Yes.
Yep.
But I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
The one who Kubrick.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Kubrick. Yeah, maybe he's just following his lead.
Yeah.
Could be.
I feel like people are coming around on Alien 3 because like, don't you feel like people are like, oh, it's actually good now?
Okay.
Upon revisiting?
Yeah, they're coming around like people are coming around on Pinkerton. Like...
We reference.
What? Just saying.
Wow.
So his first real movie was Seven, right? Which was 3 years later.
Mercy. 7.
What?
Hey, you love 7.
7.
It's Zack John Doe.
I don't have fingerprints. They're gone.
John Doe has the upper hand.
My fingerprints were ripped off by a scooter accident.
Yeah,
scooter accident. They're gone.
Jokes on Baconsale.
Doodah.
So for my next pick, I am choosing Amy Heckerling, whose first film debut was Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I know I'm in the minority not liking this one. I know. I really didn't like this movie. The synopsis: a group of Southern California high school students are enjoying their most important subjects, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And it has Sean Penn, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Judge Reinhold, Phoebe Cates, Forrest Whitaker.
This is the
Forrest
director.
Whitaker.
Yeah.
This what?
When Forrest Whitaker comes out of the swimming pool. What a scene.
Oh, no.
This is the director of Look Who's Talking and Look Who's Talking 2, and you're going to punch down on Fast Times.
Clueless?
And Clueless. And
Yeah.
Johnny Dangerously and National Lampoon's European Vacation.
So Big Ben Kids, Parliament.
Clueless is the kind of the iconic one here that I wanted to point out, because that to me is like iconic 90s comedy. It's really well done. But I just found it so interesting that Amy Heckerling, that she's had this kind of comedy career throughout her life and hit on a bunch of those that I enjoy.
Honestly, what an intro, though. I know you don't care for it, but it probably really just put her on the map.
Oh, it totally did. I don't know. I couldn't really relate to anything happening in the movie.
Yeah. I just were too young, obviously.
Well, that's why I said I think if you...
you were like a baby stoner?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I felt like you had to be a kind of a teen watching it back in the day to really appreciate it. It came out in 1982. So it was like -8 for Zack.
I'm dying here.
Okay, what?
Because it's like, hey, James Cameron, just great movie after great movie, best 10-year run by a director ever. Second, close second here is Amy Heckerling with Fast Times, Johnny Dangerously, European Vacation. Look Who's Talking 2, and Clueless.
Comedies of my
What a
youth.
decade.
I love European Vacation.
Ken goes for prestige. I go for favorites. You know how this works. Anyway.
I love Clueless. That's amazing.
So she began her career in NYU and then went to the American Film Institute. So that's what she was doing. Here's the weird thing, though. Like during her second year at AFI, she was making her first short film, getting it over with. But then as soon as she finished the edit and sent away to be processed, she got in a car accident, a bad car accident. A drunk driver hit her, put her in the hospital with a collapsed lung, bruised kidney, mild amnesia, and she got fired from her editing job because she could not remember where certain footage is. Like she was having some memory issues. But then she bounced back. So how do you feel about making fun of her now, Zach?
Like she's made a lot of dumb movies. I'm not going to jump straight. I don't mind Johnny Dangerously. There's the one guy who can't swear. That's funny.
Clueless is great.
Clueless is...
Look Who's Talking, also entertaining. And National Lampoon's European Vacation, as lesser as it is in the National Lampoon's kind of pantheon of vacation movies, it's better than a lot of other comedies out there.
It's better than Vegas Vacation.
Yes.
Better than Christmas.
No.
Well, maybe same level, though. Kent?
No.
What's your next one?
Zach, tell me about the movies of Matt Reeves.
Matt Reeves, he makes great movies.
Okay, like what?
We've got the second two of the most recent
Dawn
Apes
and
trilogy,
War.
Dawn and
Monkey
War.
movies.
Yes. He dong 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 dong. The Batman.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's all I know.
Okay, also Cloverfield.
Oh, Cloverfield.
right? You kind of got a headache from that, but still pretty awesome.
I feel like I forget that one. J.J. Abrams gets credit for that, but Matt Reeves.
Yeah, it's Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
And also Let Me In, which is the remake of the Swedish vampire film, Let the Right One In. And I prefer Let Me In. Everyone should watch it.
Yeah.
His first movie was very dissimilar to those movies that we mentioned. In fact, it stars David Schwimmer, Ross himself. This was made in 1996, and it's called The Pallbearer.
I've seen it.
David Schwimmer from Madagascar?
From Madagascar.
That is the
fame and
point of
nothing
reference,
else.
yes.
Also, Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
From Madagascar?
Yeah, she was a giraffe.
From
Anyways.
from Duets?
He was a giraffe. Yeah, from Duets.
I did not like The Pallbearer.
So I rewatched it today.
Did you?
Yeah. Actually, just before recording, I'm like, you know what? I paid $3.49 to rent it on Amazon.
Wow.
That's how desperate I was.
That's dedication.
So the pallbearer, a young man's life is thrown into a loop when he is asked to be a pallbearer for the funeral of a classmate he doesn't remember, and his old high school crush temporarily returns to town. This movie, it's if you look at the trailer, if you look at the poster, it is a 90s rom-com. Guess what? There is no in this drama.
A darker movie.
It's very dark, and I'm kind of sitting there going, Matt Reeves, like, I try to kind of get like the scope of maybe what a cinematographer is doing or the pacing, and there's just no comedy in it whatsoever. And you do have mopey David Schwimmer, who I've kind of warmed up on, like after Band of Brothers. Like, he can act.
This was him trying to launch a film career during his friend's career.
And it clearly didn't work. This is not a cute movie. It's actually kind of more like The Graduate
than
anything else.
When Chandler tried to do Fools Rush In with Selma Hayek.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's all right.
The Whole Nine Yards, I like that one too.
Oh, he did way better.
So about Matt Reeves, he and J.J. Abrams, I think his name is Jeff or James. Jeff James.
There's no way of knowing.
Jeff Abrams?
Look that up. So he and J.J. Abrams became friends when they were 13, and they started writing scripts together.
It's actually John Jacob Jingleheimer Abrams. Yeah.
Hey, his name was my name too.
Abrams.
Jeffrey Jacob.
So Matt Reeves, he co-wrote the script for Under Siege 2, Dark Territory.
There's a second Under
And
Siege.
then he also co-wrote The Pallbearer, which he was hired on to be the director. I'm like, what are you doing, man? It's a horrible movie. It doesn't even fit, because I think it's trying to go for like a Return to Me sort of vibe. It's nowhere near. It doesn't have any of the comedy.
No.
And so he didn't direct a movie for 12 years after The Pallbearer. And his next movie was Cloverfield.
Wow.
And that really launched everything.
That helped.
My next pick, going to be a hot take,
Okay.
but I chose Frank Oz for directing The Dark Crystal. In my bottom.
Listen.
This is a bottom pick.
Wow.
So, synopsis.
I don't know about this.
Synopsis. On another planet in the distant past, a Gelfling embarks on a quest to find the missing shard of a magical crystal and to restore order to his world. Now, this was co-directed, Frank Oz, and with Jim Henson, but it was their kind of first directing role. And Frank Oz, if you don't know who he is the voice of Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Animal, Sam the Eagle,
Yoda,
Cookie Monster, Bert, Grover, Yoda, like all these names that we know, all those voices are him. By the way, he was 19 when he joined Jim Henson to work on the Muppets.
Whoa.
19. That's bizarre to me that he was just a kid.
Does he look like Yoda? I've always pictured him looking like Yoda.
He looks most like Grover.
Really?
Yeah, like a bald Grover. He did his behind the camera work because he was doing stuff in front of the camera, doing all the Muppets and everything. But they did the behind the camera work when he did this one, The Dark Crystal. And I don't like it that much as a movie. I think it's a little slow, a little tedious, a little out there for me. I know people love it. I know they do. But then he ended up going on to make The Muppets Take Manhattan, which was much better. Little Shop of Horrors, which I really enjoy. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I really enjoy. And What About Bob? He has other ones too, but those are like the highlights.
Oh, come on. House Sitter is not a highlight?
No.
At the time, it was fun.
The Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh, yeah, they made a movie that, didn't they?
Bowfinger.
Oh, that's
wow.
so bad. So, yeah, he's had his ups and downs, but I just like the fact that someone who had such a proficient career in front of the camera got behind the camera and it worked out.
He directed Nicole Kidman's Stepford Wives movie.
Oh.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he's kind of had a weird... I looked at his
it is
film.
a little strange.
Yeah, it's jumping all over the place genre-wise, but good for him for doing it. So, yeah, Frank Oz.
Did you just pat him on the back?
Good job, Frank Oz.
Good job, Frank.
Good job, Frank.
Thanks for listening to our podcast.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing. All right, Kent.
Two stumblebum, one word, inheritors are determined to rid their antique house of a mouse who is equally determined to stay where he is.
Oh.
The film is 1997's Mouse Hunt.
with-
Starring Nathan Lane,
Yeah.
Lee Evans, and Christopher Walken.
Who directed that, Kent?
Gore Verbinski.
I've heard that name.
from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yep. And The Ring.
Yep.
And Rango. And I don't want to mention The Lone Ranger, but The Weatherman, I really enjoyed that movie as well.
I still need to see that one.
And Gore Verbinski, he really had a cool style for a bit. In fact, maybe I smile on the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy. We've talked about it a little bit, but man, he really, in the early 2000s, he came out of nowhere. But Mouse Hunt?
It's bad.
What's going on there?
Mouse Hunt is bad.
Yeah, it's really
Cure
bad.
for Wellness.
Yeah, Cure for Wellness. That was the last movie he did, and that was about 6-7 years ago. Like, get out of director jail, which, by the way, maybe should be a show. But I really like where Gore Verbinski, his name is really hard to say, by the way, where he started, because in the 80s, he was in a bunch of punk bands, and he was just a guitarist. And then he went on to do music videos for NoFX and Bad Religion and punk bands of the time. And he directed, guys,
Why?
Budweiser?
Oh, it's Wise?
Wise?
Listen, it's a new drink. It's non-alcoholic.
We're not talking about that on the
Middle
show.
frog syndrome.
I get it now. Yeah, he directed the Budweiser Frogs commercial, and that really got him famous. He got some,
honestly, that's really good.
And like, he got a ton of awards. And they're like, hey, you want to try a movie about a mouse? But thankfully, he moved on from that. And Mouse Hunt did really well. It made $125 million on a $38 million budget, which is silly that we haven't got a sequel yet.
To Mouse Hunt?
Yeah.
Mouse Hunt 2, where the mouse hunts you.
Followed that up 4
Is that
years
Willard?
later with the Mexican Brad Pitt. And,
I like that one.
Yeah, that is a good one.
and
It's
Julia
fine.
Roberts. And then The Ring, Pirates, the Caribbean, and then went off. Wow.
Hey, Gore, I miss you and your cool name, Gore
what-
Verbinski.
the-
Wait, you're
Weatherman.
talking to Gore Verbinski or are you talking to Peter Jackson?
Yeah, that's gory.
Oh.
This is just Gore.
Okay.
Oh, The Weatherman with Nick Cage.
Yeah, I like that movie.
All right.
Wow.
Joel, what do we got?
So for my final bottom pick,
Bottom.
once again going with a hot take here. 'Cause I'm choosing one of my favorite directors and writers.
Don't you say Steven Spielberg?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about him too. I don't have him on my list.
We
This
already
list.
did.
But I'm choosing John Hughes and 16 Candles.
What?
The
Because-
classic. Oh, wow. You're going after 16 Candles and Fast Times?
Yep. Not my genre.
Joel didn't want to be a teen in the 80s.
No, I prefer a teen in the 90s. But John Hughes, if you don't know who he is, he directed The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Uncle Buck, and he's actually written so many more movies. Like, he does writing a lot more, and he's just good at it, but he only directed those ones.
What a start, though.
We could do a whole episode about John Hughes.
Well, they're all the
I
same
feel.
movie, but that's fine.
Stop. How dare you?
Are 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink not the same thing?
They're the same thing.
I like one more than the other. But yeah, 16 Candles I obviously don't like. But a girl's sweet 16th birthday is anything that was special. Her family forgets about it. And she suffers from every embarrassment possible, starring Molly Ringwald, Anthony Michael Hall, Gede Watanabe. I can never say his name right.
Watanabe?
But Watanabe, that's it. But this came out in 1984, and I love John Hughes movies. I just don't like this one.
So he came out at the gate with 16 Candles, and then that was in 1984, and he didn't make a good movie again, or he didn't make a good movie until 1984 with 16 Candles.
Is it like Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2? He just kind of made the same movie.
They made Breakfast Club a year later.
Wow.
Weird Science the same year. Ferris Bueller a year
He
after
writes
that.
so fast.
Okay,
Like, we could do a whole show
hold on.
about him.
Why did we like Weird Science the most when we were growing up?
I don't
Kelly
know.
LeBrock?
Yep.
That's probably why.
Yep.
But his career was kind of interesting because he was at the University of Arizona but dropped out and then decided to start selling jokes to comedians such as Rodney Dangerfield and Joan Rivers. And then he worked as an advertising, and his work on the Virginia Slims account got him access to visit
this Mad Men?
The cigarettes?
Yeah.
Wow.
He did work on that account, and then that gave him access to visit the National Lampoon's magazine, which was a popular magazine at the time.
What happened? We're talking about National Lampoon's, cigarettes, and Budweiser.
Yeah,
Budweiser.
What has happened to Baconsale?
Baconsale, season 10. But he then became a regular contributor for National Lampoon's. He started writing for them, and that's how like his writing became things like National Lampoon's Vacation and Mr. Mom. And because of that, they like, hey, you're a good writer. Can you also direct? And he gave it a shot. He does a good job directing. I just don't like 16 Candles that much. So it's a personal slam there.
Wow.
But that's my bottom pick for my last bottom pick.
You're a Curly Sue guy, huh? Yeah, I get it.
I remember Curly Sue.
All right. Uncle Buck's great.
I love Uncle Buck.
And your final, Kent?
The synopsis for my last movie on this list is my favorite thriller from 1998, and it goes, a 10-year-old boy goes on a search for God after his grandfather dies. Rosie O'Donnell is a nun.
Oh, no.
It's Wide Awake from 1998. This is
I've never heard of this. Well,
Night
never-
Shyamalan.
It's his first movie?
Is it his first movie? Because when he was a child, so he's born in India in 1970, raised in Pennsylvania. He developed a love for film growing up. And
He's from Pennsylvania? I had no idea.
I know, weird, right?
Weird.
So his parents his mom, his dad wanted him to be a doctor. His mom said, follow your dreams. She got him a Super 8 camera. He made 45 home movies by the time he was 17. Love this guy. How cool is that?
Sounds like my childhood.
And then, so when he was a student, he made a movie called Praying with Anger, where he's definitely in it, like, because he loves being in his movies.
Yeah.
But it's a student film. So his first real movie was called Wide Awake. And this is kind of just a touching story about a boy dealing with death and Rosie O'Donnell trying to be funny. And it's so
Is she
bad.
dead the whole time? Is Rosie O'Donnell dead the whole time?
Oh, I think
You know?
I've seen, and she wears the baseball thing.
Yeah, she wears the baseball thing.
Oh,
The baseball
I might
thing.
have seen this
There are
movie.
many baseball
Listen,
things.
You sound like us, Zach. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Burning toast?
What?
The baseball thing.
No, I just saw the poster and I'm like, I might have seen this movie.
Yeah, so he wanted to make a movie. He literally said, I hoped it would be a comedy that would make people cry. Right? It's M. Night Shyamalan. That's the twist.
Yeah.
You're going to cry in my comedy. So he wrote that movie in 1991. It was made in 1995, and it wasn't released till 1998. So the studio's like, we don't know what to do with this. What came out the year after Wide Awake?
The Sixth Sense.
The
The Sixth Sense. And then?
Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, which I like more than most.
And then
Lady
we
in the
can-
Water,
just-
I like more than most. It's a fun fairy tale. Leave it alone.
You can just mumble the next
Different
couple.
definitions of fun.
And then it gets
Happening,
like
Last Airbender, After, The Visit,
Maladroit, whatever. Yeah.
The Visit, Split, Glass. I like old. I like Knock at the Cabin.
If you want to hear more from us, but not Zach, you can listen to episode 24, the M. Night Shyamalan.
I just gave my entire show.
Zach should have been on that show because he's devout.
He is.
I actually like Lady in the Water.
So yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, obviously he's had a spotty career, but it started with a weird religious movie.
Yeah. And Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah.
Well, there were some shocking takes on there. There were some interesting choices, Joel. Why did you... John Hughes, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very well-known directors who didn't come out swinging, but eventually got there.
Yeah.
Now tell me about the directors that just hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running
And kept
and
being prominent.
may have had lesser careers after that, but they hit the ground running
the
with that
ground
first
running.
one.
I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll go first this whole round.
Because I have a movie that was made before 1980.
What?
I know, guys. I watched a movie from 1957.
57?
1957.
Go
Isn't
on.
that crazy? 12 Angry Men.
Oh, well, that you are a part of film Twitter now.
Welcome.
I'm just part of the world. The jury in a New York City murder trial is frustrated by a single member whose skeptical caution forces them to more carefully consider the evidence before jumping to a hasty verdict. This is 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet. He was born in 1924. I say Sidney Lumet, but maybe it's Lumiere. Died 2011. This is rated 9.0 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yep.
This was nominated for Best Picture, Director, and Writing. So
It's so good.
this guy was a TV director through the 50s and just kind of making his name that way, getting paychecks. He actually started as a child actor on radio and Broadway. And then he just decided to adapt this play, which is 12 Angry Men. And it is really seen as one of the best films of all time.
And it's one of those in one room the entire time.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's a play.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
Right.
think it's like sometimes
Which
those don't
lives
really
on
work
as
with
12
film.
Angry Jurors.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this guy's made so many movies, and yes, there's mixed quality in there, but some of my favorites are Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, which I love,
Oh, wow.
Network, and The Verdict. And so there was a span in the 70s and early 80s there where he was killing it.
Yeah.
He's made some spotty movies around then, but man, he is an amazing director. And to have that movie be your first, I mean, you might as well quit.
Yeah.
If you start with an all-timer, that might be a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where do you go from there?
But still good movies.
I agree.
But let me ask you a question. What would it be like if your first movie you ever made is considered to be one of the greatest movies ever made? And that's why I'm going with Orson Welles and Citizen Kane.
Okay, there you go.
Good choice.
Wait, I thought you didn't like this movie.
Oh, no, I like this movie.
Yeah.
I just think it's overrated.
No, it's perfectly rated.
It's one of those movies where, like, it's built up as the best movie of all time, best film of all time. And I watched it, I was like, that was good.
I've seen
I
this
liked
movie.
it. Orson Welles, he got to start directing in theater, like he was directing plays, and then he got a job on the radio, and he got to do like an 8-minute short called The Hearts of Age. His success on the radio led to RKO Radio Pictures giving him a contract that was kind of like unheard of at the time. It was kind of like, you do whatever you want. You get final say on whatever you want. You do whatever you want, spend as much as you want, we'll go with it.
What?
And he made Citizen Kane. Now, if you don't know what
Jeez.
Citizen Kane is, following the death of the publishing tycoon Charles Foster Kane, reporters scrambled to uncover the meaning of his final utterance, Rosebud. And it's an interesting mystery. Made in 1941, starring Orson Welles, so he directed and starred. But I do think that this movie may not be as popular now as it has been for like the past few decades.
Sure.
But I still think it's amazing to me that was his first movie. He did go on to direct The Magnificent Ambersons, Touch of Evil, and F for Fake, none of which are as good as Citizen Kane.
Right.
But still, they're out there. People appreciate them. Film Twitter loves them.
Touch of Evil is rated very high.
Touch of Evil has an amazing opening, like one shot. It's really good.
I don't know how to explain it, but if you look at a picture of Orson Welles, there's this thing called iPhone face, and he has it. I don't know what it is.
So the guy that died well before,
Yeah, he died in 85, but he looks like he knows what an iPhone is.
yeah, he's posing for
It's
it.
like everybody.
I thought it was when your face
No.
sags because you've been looking down
Think
your whole
about
life.
like everybody in Bridgerton. You
Yeah.
look at him and you go, you know what an iPhone is. Don't try and fool me that you're in a period piece. No.
Anya Taylor-Joy,
Yep, totally. She knows what an iPhone is.
Mark Ruffalo.
He doesn't. I guarantee he doesn't.
He knows
to
what
this
movie
day.
he's in.
He just has one of those faces. Just saying. Doesn't mean anything. Kent, tell me something important.
Michael Douglas.
Does not have an iPhone face.
I just
Catherine
wanna name
Zeta-Jones
actors.
does.
She does.
Yeah,
Okay. Cameron Diaz.
for sure.
Okay.
Save it for our iPhone face episode.
You said Catherine Zeta-Jones, and
This
I
is
was
the whole
thinking,
show.
oh, she's
The whole
gorgeous
show
in the
is
90s.
us of having a list, and then Zach just saying yes or no.
Yeah. What a terrible show. I love it. Kent,
right.
who's next? Kent, who's next?
My next director, I'm going to give some background first. He was named after Burt Reynolds' character in Gunsmoke. When he was a teenager, he'd write screenplays, and his mom would ridicule his writing skills, and he vowed to never share his wealth with her.
Ooh.
He was able to finance his first movie because he did a bit role on The Golden Girls Season 4 as an Elvis impersonator. This director is Quentin Tarantino.
Yep.
Quentin Tarantino, he did do a student film called My Best Friend's Birthday, which is not a prequel to My Best Friend's Wedding. It was just over an hour long. This was in 1987. It was black and white, filmed over the course of 3 years. This was a student film that was destroyed in a film lab. He hated this movie. I think he destroyed it.
I think he kind of, at the end of Inglorious and Illegitimate Children did.
Honestly?
Yeah.
Maybe that's when he burned it up.
Could be.
Yeah. His first movie, Reservoir Dogs, 1992. Love it or hate it, Joel, I think you're kind of mixed on it.
I think it's good.
Like, what a start, though, right?
Yeah.
So this was one of those where it's just like the Sundance movie that could. In fact, at the time, it didn't actually make a ton of money. It just kind of made its money. And then his next movie, Pulp Fiction, came out. And then everyone's like, oh, his previous movie is pretty awesome. Let's go back and revisit that.
Well, the big thing with Reservoir Dogs is the vibe.
Yes.
Right? I think there are a lot of people who haven't even seen it, but there are some key moments that you maybe have seen clips of. But
You're stuck in the middle with you, and you're like,
stuck in the middle.
someone's ear's
What's
getting
going
cut
on
off.
with an ear? And then it's the black suits with the white shirts. And I mean, honestly, my first time I ever found out about Reservoir Dogs was from a photo shoot from an old defunct alternative radio station. I was like, why are they dressed in suits? And I had to have it explained to me.
Right.
So it's such a vibe that it really did set the stage for Tarantino.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, he went on to do, like I said, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, Death Proof, Inglorious, Illegitimate Children, Django Unchained, Hateful Day, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I hate that, and he deserves it. He's like one of the most pretentious directors, but at the same time, he's a fanboy. Like, this guy loves James Bond. He loves all sorts of weird spy movies and horror. But he is seen as kind of like, oh, you're only making 10 films or whatever, because he does take his time with his movies. But I wish he made more, but most everything he's made, to me, is high quality.
I think
Save for a Tarantino episode.
Actually, I would love to do that.
I think his
Thank
low
you.
point. I mean, come on, his low point's probably Hateful Eight, and that's really good.
Probably Death Proof, and I still like Death Proof.
Oh, Death Proof. Okay.
No,
Save it for that
Once
show.
Time in Hollywood.
What? Yeah.
That's my favorite movie of 2019.
I know.
Joel, save us. What's the next one?
No, this is an odd pick. I acknowledge this is an odd pick, but as I was looking through this, I went, I want more people to know about this movie. Because I'm picking Clint Eastwood as the director, and his first directed movie was Play Misty for Me.
Yeah. What a weird one.
If you haven't seen, because Clint Eastwood is known as like the tough, gruff Western type, talks through his teeth, squints his eyes. But Play Misty for Me, he plays, well, I'll read the synopsis. The life of a disc jockey is turned upside down after a romantic encounter with an obsessed fan. So Clint Eastwood stars in this one and directs this one. And the obsessed fan is Jessica Walter. If you don't know who Jessica Walter is, it's Lucille Bluth from Arrested Development. And she plays this, I mean, she's younger then, but she's kind of this, romantic interest. And it took me like a third of the movie, and also I went, oh my gosh, that's Lucille Bluth. and it kind of pulled me out for a second. But then I was like, she did great in it. So Clint Eastwood, he actually got a start in acting because he had a military buddy who snuck him into a studio where he introduced him to a cameraman that got him an audition. It's a whole weird thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, he's got the look, but he can't act. He talks through his teeth. He's too wooden. But he showed them. And then after his...
Did he?
Well,
Yeah.
I think he did. But then after his...
Yeah, he did.
I think he
He's
did.
not a good actor.
He can do certain roles very well.
Okay.
He's the Keanu Reeves of his time.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Fair.
That's actually true.
Fair. Yeah.
So then after that successful Western career and other movies that he did, he's like, I want to step behind the camera and do this. And this Play Misty Play Misty for Me is the name of the movie in 1971, was when he decided, I want to try behind the camera. And then he's gone on to direct The Outlaws Josie Wales, Pale Rider, Unforgiven, $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino, Sully, a bunch more others that I could talk about. But really has kind of a legacy as a director now rather than an actor. But he still likes to act in a lot of these movies as well. If you haven't seen Unforgiven, by the way. Wow. So good.
Well, that is Unforgiven.
Yeah.
You should have seen that. Kent, what do you have next?
My next director interned with George Lucas when he was 15 years old, and he worked on the storyboards for Raiders of the Lost Ark. He believed the movie would be terrible.
Really?
But when he saw the movie, he changed his mind and said, you know what? I'm going to become a director. His first movie is Bad Boys. And the director is Michael Bay.
Wow.
Bad Boys in 1995.
Hold on. Michael Bay's first movie was Bad Boys.
Bad Boys.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't that so cool?
But
In fact-
I just want to point out, you've chosen both Michael Bay and James Cameron.
Yes.
Are you obsessed with explosions?
I think I might be. Well, listen, we're not done yet. There's going to be a few more explosions. And maybe some slow motion. So the mediocre site that's kind of corrupt, it has a fruit or vegetable, I'm not really sure, but it got a 43%. That's
even say the name.
That's a little silly, right? 43%.
43%.
And I know Bad Boys is silly, right?
Yeah.
In fact, Michael Bay didn't even like the script. He had Will Smith and Martin Lawrence ad lib because he said the script is kind of mediocre. You guys are really good together. Just do some lines and maybe we'll use it in the final cut. And he ended up using a lot, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And look, is Bad Boys 2 significantly better? Yes, but I really enjoy Bad Boys.
Listen.
What's his next movie?
This man came out in
What's his next
95
movie?
with Bad Boys.
Yes.
96 with The Rock,
The Rock's probably my favorite.
which is awesome.
Yes.
I'm only borrowing your Humvee.
I'm only borrowing their Humvee. And then 98 with Armageddon. Say what you will. It's a big deal.
Say what you will, and we said it on episode 155, My Bay, Michael Bay.
And then 2001 Pearl Harbor.
But then you have Bad Boys 2.
Bad Boys 2 in 2003.
The Island. And I'm sorry, Transformers is great. And then 13
Transformers
Hours.
is great.
And that's all I did. I love Transformers.
Great.
Pain and Gain.
You know what?
You forgot Pain and
I
Gain.
might accept good.
I don't like Pain
I
Again.
might let it pass if you say good, but you just said great.
What?
High tier 2 good.
What's High Tier 2 good?
Transformers.
Oh, it's great. Tier 1.
Yeah. Baconsale proof.
Baconsale proof. Boop.
Speaking of Peter Jackson's bad taste,
But Michael Bay, we talked about this before. He did direct music videos for like Styx, Chicago, Donny Osmond, Meatloaf.
yeah.
He did I Will Do Anything for Love.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, it's Michael Bay. We've talked about him, but Bad Boys was the start. And he kind of just
Good start.
never stopped.
Hit the ground running.
Yeah.
Joel.
For this one, I went with an animated pick here, and I chose Don Bluth with The Secret of Nim.
You know, you rarely find out who directed the animated, but obviously
Yeah.
Don Bluth is a known name.
He is, and he's one that, like, he has a style. You see a Don Bluth movie, you're like, oh, it's a Don
Hold on.
Bluth.
You hated on Dark Crystal.
I
And then
know.
you chose Secret Nim for good.
I'm a complicated man, Kent.
They're both really dark for their time.
They are, but I like this one better.
Yeah.
So if you don't know Don Bluth, he's the one that you mistakenly think is Disney all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
because he
But
worked
there
for
is a
Disney
different
for a
style.
time. He actually worked, and he was in 1955. He was hired by Walt Disney Productions to work on Sleeping Beauty, and then he left because he thought Disney was boring. But then he went back to Disney after he graduated from BYU to go work on things like The Rescuers, and then he decided he just wanted to do his own thing, and so he ended up creating An American Tail, The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven, Rockadoodle, Anastasia, Titan AE. Like, these are all Don Bluth productions.
You can have Titan AE and Rockadoodle back, but I'll take the rest.
Rockadoodle. But yeah, he is one where I think he is probably, I guess DreamWorks probably. But Don Bluth Productions is one of the few rivals to Disney. And that's when Disney was drowning, essentially, in the late 60s, early 70s. Before the Renaissance, actually into the 80s as well. Don Bluth was kind of winning the war against
Yeah,
Disney,
because Disney have Great Mouse Detective at that time.
pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean, you had American Tail, Land Before Time, and All Dogs Go to Heaven in the mid to late 80s.
Wow.
Like that.
And what did Disney have? What did Disney have?
The Mouse Detective, maybe?
Yeah, but then Disney had Little Mermaid, and that kind of changed the game again. But yeah, Don Bluth, it really is one of those directors that I can see his fingerprints on his movies, and I think it's very impressive. And to come out of the gate with a secret of him, which the synopsis: to save her ill son, a field mouse must seek the aid of colony of rats with whom she has a deeper link than she suspected. It is surprisingly emotional for a children's movie and pretty deep.
Yeah.
I don't think I was really appreciative of this movie when I was younger, but I have grown to appreciate it as I've become an adult.
And he was credited a year later with directing Dragon's Lair.
Yes.
Which there was
Video
no
game.
reason on Baconsale to ever talk about it, but Dragon's Lair is amazing. It was like an arcade cartoon that you could play through.
Yeah.
And it's like
How did they pull that off?
your choices, like you were making the cartoon adventure happen. It
I'm
was like
convinced
choose
they
your own.
never finished the game because I made it too hard and no one ever got to the end. And I expected that.
Took a lot of my money for sure. Kent, what do you have next?
Let me just pull out my Film Bro card because that's the card I'll be playing for the rest of the show.
Oh no.
Film Bro card.
Here we go.
My next director is Guy Ritchie.
Of course it is.
His first movie is Lock,
Lock,
Stock,
Stock.
and Two Smoking Barrels from 1998.
So good.
So good. This guy, he made...
So unintelligible.
Yeah.
Oh, what if phone?
Yeah.
And then he released Snatch right after.
What a caravan.
Yeah.
From a ma.
He directed a short film called The Hard Case, and a lot of producers were like, hey, that's pretty cool. There's a cool edge to it. He wasn't like a well-trained director. He didn't graduate with anything amazing. In fact, he was like a lot of these directors, they struggled in school. Like they may not even graduate with a bachelor's of fine arts in film. So he was dyslexic. He got expelled from school, and he's like, you know what? But I have a talent for this. I'm going to do it. So he made Lock, Stock on a $1 million budget, and it made $28 million, and it's really kind of just become iconic at this point.
And it's a British kind of a heist movie.
Yes. And I mean, it stars Jason Statham and I mean, the crew.
Yeah.
All those guys who, you know.
You're like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they all appeared in Snatch as well, which is Snatch the better movie?
I like Snatch probably
Maybe more accessible?
Yeah.
What's better Guy Ritchie movie? Snatch, Lock, Stock, or Aladdin?
Okay, how about this?
Ugh.
Or The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
A Man from U.N.C.L.E. is
I like
fun.
The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
There's also the two Sherlock Holmes movies, which
Sherlock Holmes
he's
is
done
fun.
a lot of commercial stuff, and I think that's where he falters because there's King Arthur, like you said, Aladdin.
Yeah.
Total return to form with the gentleman, though.
Yeah.
The bigger the budget, the worse the movie when it comes to
Yeah,
Guy
I agree
Ritchie.
with that.
I didn't see Ministry of
It's, you know what? It's fine.
But I definitely think has a prominent career and married to Madonna.
He married
Was
Madonna,
married?
made one movie with her, and then got divorced. And it's a horrible movie.
So-
Swept Away. Do you
That's
remember that one?
right.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that movie.
Yeah, horrible. Yeah, but Guy Ritchie, he begins my film bro career. Actually, Michael Bay. Yeah, that was a film bro.
Michael Bay
Yeah.
is
James
a film
Cameron.
bro choice.
Yeah.
Kent's a film bro.
Okay. Joel, film bro, what's up?
So mine, my next pick, this director is the son of a very prominent comedian and film actor. Carl Reiner is the dad, because I'm choosing Rob Reiner. And his first feature film was This Is Spinal Tap.
Wow.
So Spinal Tap, and this is...
I mean, how do you direct Spinal Tap, though?
I don't know. Like it's very improvised. It's a mockumentary. The synopsis says Spinal Tap, one of England's loudest bands, is chronicled by film director Marty DeBurgi on what proves to be a fateful tour. And this stars Rob Reiner as well. He stars in it. This came out in 1984. The funny thing about this one is that Rob Reiner was like a known actor. Like he was in All in the Family. He was like one of the main actors in the sitcom All in the Family. And then he also did bit roles in Batman, The Andrew Griffith Show, with Beverly Hillbillies. And then he decided, you know what? I've had enough time in front of the camera. I'm going to get behind the camera and in front of the camera. And he went on to direct such movies as Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men.
Wow.
These are all great movies. Not much since then, but these are all great movies he did.
that is in contention for Top Decade Ever, which is apparently a show that we're just now doing.
Top decade for a director?
Top Decade for a director. This is
Add it to the list. But yeah, Rob Reiner, I did not realize how many of movies of his were like in my pantheon of great movies. And so I think This Is Spinal Tap. I love the mockumentary format. I think he did a great job with it. In fact, I'd say that movie goes to 11. Boom.
I almost spit my drink just now.
You should have.
I think he got lucky. I think he probably didn't storyboard this movie. I think it just happened, and he happened to be there and edit it well eventually.
But then he proved himself very much as a comic director
totally,
after that.
absolutely.
So I think he did definitely have his finger on the button there in that movie.
And Stand By Me. Kent, what do you have next? Film bro.
Who's Guy Ritchie's little brother?
Matthew Vaughn.
Matthew Vaughn.
Wow.
Am I wrong?
No.
You go to Costco, and you're like, hey, they don't have Guy Ritchie, but they have Kirkland Guy Ritchie.
This Kirkland Guy Ritchie.
Vaughn.
for
Matthew
sure.
Vaughn. So
Not Kroger necessarily.
Yeah, so Matthew Vaughn was born in Paddington, England in 1971.
Not
Yes.
Paddington 2.
Before going to university, he did a gap year where he traveled the world on a Hard Rock Cafe tour. Like a weirdo, he went to every Hard Rock Cafe around the world.
Why is that a weirdo thing?
It's kind of weird.
I'm almost done.
You have shot glasses from everywhere.
Yeah.
I've been working on my Margaritaville tour myself.
Obviously, he was friends with Guy Ritchie, and he helped produce Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. They each earned $9 million from the movie, and then he made 2004's Layer Cake. Now, if you haven't seen Layer Cake, go watch it. It's a different kind of movie. It doesn't quite feel like Guy Ritchie. It's a little more... it's really hard to say. It may be more slick. I'll say that.
It stars a pre-Bond Daniel Craig.
Yeah, so Daniel Craig, the synopsis is a successful cocaine dealer gets 2 tough assignments from his boss on the eve of his planned early retirement. And this does not star Danny Glover. This is Daniel Craig and Sienna Miller. And this movie, it kind of just oozes cool. In fact, the reason I'm saying that this is a really good debut, because this one is what they credit Daniel Craig getting the Bond role for. Yeah, Daniel Craig was in a Tomb Raider movie, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And then they saw how cool he was in this movie.
It wasn't The Power of One? People didn't like him in that?
Maybe. I forgot he was in that movie.
He's so awful in that one.
Is he? He's a bad guy?
Yes, he is.
Okay. But then Matthew Vaughn went to direct Stardust, Kick-Arse, X-Men First Class, which arguably maybe one of the better X-Men movies.
Certainly top 3.
Yeah, top 3. Kingsman, and then he never directed anything after that.
Argyle. Kingsman. Golden.
He's like
Circle.
obsessed with the Kingsman series now.
He's kind of fallen into the trap of like, I can make a franchise of this. And
Yes.
It's not a great franchise.
But what a great start.
Yeah, for sure.
But now, come back to
Stardust.
us.
Wow.
Yeah, Stardust is cool, right?
Yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
I need to watch that one again.
Is that the with De Niro?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's right.
Perry the Platypus.
Joel, what's next?
So for my next one, it should be a very obvious Joel pick whenever we talk about directors. I'm choosing Tim Burton. Of course. And I'm choosing Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Man.
Now, this was one of those weird careers where, by the way, if you want to hear more about Tim Burton, you can listen to episode 77. From Pee-wee to Peregrine, it's Hearing Tim Burton. That was a long title.
Oh, yeah.
But Pee-wee's Big Adventure, before he did that, he was doing, he made a bunch of films as a kid, like little backyard films. And then he attended the California Institute of the Arts and decided to study character animation. He started working at Disney. He worked as like concept artist on movies like The Fox and the Hound, Tron, Black Cauldron, but none of his concept art ever made it into the finished films. He got disillusioned with Disney. He made like a live action movie, a short, but then he decided to do Frankenweenie, which was released in 1984. It's a live action short film. And that convinced Paul Rubens, who plays Pee Wee Herman, to say, I want him to direct my Pee Wee Herman movie. So once again, we said it before in that episode, I believe we'll say it again. Tim Burton's career is thanks to Pee Wee Herman. And then you get Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Paging Mr. Herman.
When an eccentric man-child, Pee Wee Herman, gets his beloved bike stolen in broad daylight, he sets out across the U.S. on an adventure of his life.
Do you think that's a good balance between the studio choices and director choices?
With Tim Burton?
Because it's not quite totally Tim Burton, but it's enough.
Yeah, but then, I mean, when you get movies like Beetlejuice and Batman and Edward Scissorhands...
I mean, that's full Tim Burton there.
But I don't think it's like over Tim Burton. I think especially Batman was a studio Burton combo.
Yeah,
like a good balance.
Because if you're talking Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands...
Beetlejuice is more Burton.
Yes.
Batman is more balanced.
Except for the Prince soundtrack.
Oh my gosh, the Prince soundtrack. Batman soundtrack, throw it. But yes, and then he went to do like Batman Returns and Big Fish and movies since then. But
The movies. Sleepy Hollow, Mars Attacks.
Yes. But I do feel like Tim Burton is one of those directors where I'm like, wow, Pee-wee's Big Adventure really is like one of those groundbreaking, oh yeah, that movie. That's something I recognize. Yeah. I don't know if people maybe do anymore, but back in the day, it made a big splash, which was not directed by Tim Burton.
Kent? What's
so
your number
apparently
6?
I really like 2004 because my last movie was 2004 with Layer Cake. And my next movie is from 2004, and it's Saw.
Oh.
2 strangers awaken in a room with no recollection of how they got there and soon discovered their pawns in a deadly game perpetrated by a notorious serial killer.
Who just wants to play a game.
Just wants to play a game.
One of the guys in the room is Carrie Elwell.
Who's in The Princess Bride, which is directed by Rob Reiner. Conspiracy.
Film bro.
So James Wan was born in 1977 in Malaysia. His family moved to Perth when he was 7 years old.
Perth.
And he got a bachelor.
Australia.
Yeah, a Bachelor of Arts from a Melbourne university. And he met a guy named Lee Winnell. And Lee Winnell actually plays one of the other main characters with Carrie in Saw. Did I add too many syllables? Sorry, guys. I always overdo it.
Sarah McLachlan.
bury the bottom was. I don't know. Anyway, so Lee Winnell, they had this concept for a scary movie, and they were like, we write scripts together. Let's just film like a 20-minute short. And they pitched that, and they liked it. And so he just cast his buddy. And Lee Winnell actually went on to become a director as well. Did The Invisible Man in 2020. That's what it is, right? Yes, it is.
Yes, yeah.
Anyways,
With Elizabeth
and he did
something or
Upgrade
other?
as well, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so these two guys, they're just kind of dorks making movies. And James Wan's name has become one of the bigger names in horror now.
But not even just horror, because like horror was his bread and butter for a while.
He's only made horror movies.
Then he made big
Insidious,
budgets.
No.
The Conjuring.
Get later. He's going to get out of there.
Hey, I like Furious 7, though.
Furious 7.
Actually, it's one of the better ones. Aquaman 1 and 2.
Yep.
Yeah, James Wan, just come back. Malignant's amazing.
you
I
go.
love Malignant so much. But he is like this icon of horror now, and he can handle big budget stuff. But I kind of hope he doesn't do big budget stuff anymore. Just make the stuff that's good.
That's what every
Anyways.
director should do. Just make the good stuff.
Why are you making good stuff?
Why don't you just make good
Make
movies?
more good stuff.
Hey, my name's Jeff. Make good movies.
Talking mongoose?
Yeah. Joel, what's your sixth?
My sixth best pick of Hit the Ground Running is one Zach might relate to, if not anyone else.
Finally.
Because I'm choosing Joe Johnston, who directed. His first feature film debut was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Oh, hey.
And I was like, I honestly, that is one of my favorite movies. That's a 5-star for me. Every time I watch it, I
So
enjoy
you
it.
were in like 89?
Yes, 89 is when this movie
And
came
I'm
out.
in 2004?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah. So this movie is about a guy who shrinks his kids accidentally and their neighbors.
title says it all.
Yes.
Wow.
And then it starts Rick
Were there
Moranis and
snakes
Matt
on that
Frewer.
plane?
Oh,
And
Bonnie
came out in
Hunt?
89. Yeah, no.
No?
It's not Bonnie Hunt. No, that's not. It's
It's not?
Marcia Strassman, I believe, or Christine Sutherland. I think it might be Christine Sutherland. Anyway,
No way of knowing.
Kirkland Bonnie Hunt? Is she in any of them?
I don't know if she is. But I love Bonnie
What
Hunt.
movie did I
would
watch?
love to do a Bonnie Hunt episode. She's fantastic.
Marcia Strassman.
So I love this movie. I think it's great. And then he went on to direct films just right after this of The Rocketeer, The Pagemaster,
Love it.
Jumanji, Jurassic Park 3, The
October
Wolfman.
Sky. You skipped October Sky.
Oh yeah, October Sky, and Captain America: The First Avenger.
Hidalgo.
It was so bizarre that he did like all these kind of fun family comedies, and then he starts getting adventure movies. And then he did horror with The Wolfman, and then Captain America: The First Avenger.
Is he low budget Chris Columbus?
I could see that.
Yeah, he did Nutcracker in the Four Realms,
Yeah.
which is a movie I've seen in theater.
Wow.
I don't recall a single thing about it.
So here's the interesting fact about him. So he attended the California State University and went to Pasadena's Art College of Design. And then he started working as a concept artist on the first Star Wars film, which was directed by George Lucas. And then he co-created the design of Boba Fett. He's one of the co-creators of that design of what he looked like. And he was the art director for Return of the Jedi. He won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects for Raiders of the Lost Ark, because he worked on that as well. And he was an associate producer on the fantasy Willow. So he got in the door with some pretty big names pretty early on. And then here's the funny part. He was kind of bored with his time there, and he wanted to leave Lucasfilm. And George Lucas was like, no. I'll pay you to go to the USC School of Cinematic Arts and study for a year. I'll pay for your tuition and a half salary. Do any class you want. And he left after a year, saying he was, quote, was asked not to return because he, quote, broke too many rules.
Oh.
So
Sounds
Joe
like me in
Johnston,
school.
it's a rule breaker. But I also think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is an amazing first movie, and they followed up with a bunch of other good ones.
Jumanji, man.
Yeah.
It's great. Kent, what is your final choice?
Whenever there's a reboot, I get a little upset. Horror is not a uncommon genre for things to be rebooted, and I'm always like, if I hear about them, I'm like, why?
Well, there was only 3 horror movies that exist, and they just continually get
basically.
rebooted.
And so
Yeah.
this director did a horror reboot that honestly at the time I would have been like, that's super lame. But the director is Zack Snyder, and he
Oh,
remade
here we go.
George Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
And it's a great
A
remake.
nurse, a policeman, a young married couple, a salesman, and other survivors of a worldwide plague that is producing aggressive flesh-eating zombies take refuge in a mega Midwestern shopping mall. It's zombies in a mall, basically.
That was the original title.
Zombies in a mall?
Sure.
Probably. So before this, he was directing music videos for Rod Stewart, Morrissey. He did one for My Chemical Romance around this time. And even going further back, he actually started as a painter. And he was going to a painting school in England. Instead of writing scripts, and this makes sense for Zack Snyder, right? Instead of writing scripts, he would visualize things with storyboards. And so he does his own storyboards.
They said when he was in the school, the teachers actually thought that his brushstrokes were in slow motion.
Ooh, well played. Also, he had dyslexia, and he wasn't treated really well at school. And so he...
Isn't that why none of his scripts make sense?
Zach?
Angry eyebrows
Taking
are
my
back.
boop away. Taking my boop away.
Take my boop away.
But he did get his BFA in film in 1989. But yeah, Dawn of the Dead, it made $102 million on a $26 million budget. I think probably no one really expected much. And then it was just so cool. And granted, this was around the time where Shaun of the Dead was out and zombies were coming back in. And it was perfect timing. But man, this movie just worked so well.
Yeah.
And then he followed it up with 300, which is also like nobody expected anything, and it was pretty awesome.
Yes.
And then Watchmen, which from the visionary director, I like Watchmen.
I like Watchmen. I really like Watchmen.
Gahul,
Yeah, okay.
Sucker Punch, but you need to see the other cut.
Well,
and
that's
then
not
Man
out
of
yet.
Steel, but you need to see the other cut.
No, Man of Steel just has one cut.
And then Batman v Superman, but you need to see the
You do
other
need to
cut.
see the other cut. Justice League?
Don't watch the Justice League.
And then Army Dead Moon. But listen, there are spuddy directors here, but Zack Snyder, he came out of nowhere with Dawn of the Dead. And I think it's such a cool intro for him. Honestly, 300 could have been his first movie too, and everyone would have been like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
Out of nowhere. Totally different thing.
Yeah.
I, for one, am shocked that Kent brought up Zack Snyder.
He's really cooled off in the last couple of years.
True.
just
we all
like,
have a-
just
Wait,
like
me?
much
Me or
like
Zach?
No, Zack Snyder's career. Joel, what is your final official choice?
My final official choice. Kent, you went all the way to what year?
We stayed in 2004.
Okay. I'm pulling it back
Again.
to 1999. Because I'm doing
None from the
None
last
from this millennium.
25
So
years.
I only like movies from the past 30 years. You only like movies previous to
Ken,
80s.
I don't know.
I think Joel thinks movies only came out
The
in the
listener
90s.
may not be privy to conversations that happen for planning for episodes, but I'll tell you what. Ken was like, I call this guy. Yeah, I call this guy.
Yeah.
And so he blocked me out of the 2000s. And also, I feel like a lot of these debuts kind of have a longevity to their career afterwards, and I don't know if we're quite there. I mean, there's the directors I can call it saying having good one, maybe two movies, but having like that whole legacy. It's a little more difficult when you get later on. But I'm choosing Brad Bird and the Iron Giant. A young boy befriends a giant robot from outer space that a paranoid government agent wants to destroy, starring Harry Connick Jr. and Jennifer Aniston, which is a funny casting to me.
Yeah.
This is a fun movie. And it's because of this movie, because of the Iron Giant, that Pixar went, hey, direct more movies for us. And so he ended up making The Incredibles, Ratatouille, Incredibles 2. But he also made Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and Tomorrowland.
Hey, Mr. Bird, come back to us.
Ghost Protocol might be my favorite one.
It's real good.
Okay.
It's the most fun.
What happens in that one?
It's the most fun. That's the one with all the tech gadgets.
Wiz Khalifa. He's in that one.
Burj Khalifa. Yeah.
Yeah, he climbs the Wiz
Is
Khalifa.
that Sawyer in that one too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sawyer's in that one.
For a minute.
Jeremy Renner.
No, there's a lot of good moments there.
Jeremy Renner floats.
But Brad Bird,
They go to space.
He was Brad Bird was like doing short films, animated films at the age of 14, and he actually sent the film to Walt Disney Productions, and he got an apprenticeship from the studio's 9 old men, who are like the big animators back in the day. And then he attended the California Institute of Arts in the late 1970s, worked for Disney for a little bit. He wrote the screenplay for Batteries Not Included. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wrote the screenplay for it, didn't direct it. And he developed 2 episodes of Amazing Stories for
I like
Steven
that.
Spielberg. Yeah. And then he was an animator for The Brave Little Toaster. He was on The Simpsons as a creative consultant for 8 seasons.
He directed the musical for Do the Bartman.
No, I haven't thought about that song in forever.
Do the Bartman.
Simpsons sing the blues, man.
Wow.
But so he that's how he kind of got into the industry. But when he made The Iron Giant, I think it actually bombed at the box office, but critically acclaimed, beloved by many. I think it's a well done film.
Hated by many.
You think so?
Still?
Off-putting by many.
Still?
I
Really?
still talk to people because I've tried to say, oh, the Iron Giant's awesome. And then he went on to make Incredibles, which everybody likes. People will consciously avoid the Iron Giant.
Because it's a little heavy.
There's people who haven't seen it that never will.
I don't know why. Give it a shot. It's actually
beautiful.
It actually is one of those animated movies where you're like, wow, that's
Because
really
it's
impressive.
not a kid movie.
Also, guys,
I think that's the problem.
Why didn't Tomorrowland work?
I don't know.
Tomorrowland
It
could
should
have
have.
been good.
I don't know. And I don't know why Brad Bird
They put him in
has
director
not.
jail.
Yeah.
For that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think Brad Bird probably has some more. He in fact he has one in the pipe. Ray Gunn, I think it's coming out.
Allegedly Incredibles.
Just dated this episode. But I do think that's one of those another examples of like, wow, great job right out of the gate, Brad Bird.
Gentlemen, do you have any just quick honorable mentions you want to throw out there that
Way
you might
too many.
advise the listener to check out? We're not doing a sequel.
Just the good ones then, or you want to do bad ones
Whatever.
as well? Because just a couple I want to run through real quick. Buster Keaton, 3 Ages. That's one of those silent ones that not a lot of people are going to like, but I think it's an impressive first film he directed. Georgia Romero, Night of the Living Dead. You get Richard Curtis with Love Actually. You get Barry Sonnenfeld with The Addams Family. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Adam McKay, Anchorman. J.J. Abrams with Mission Impossible 3. Joss Whedon with Serenity.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I guess because J.J. Abrams did a lot of TV first.
Yeah. No, he did hold on to that too. I want to give a shout out to Ryan Johnson and Brick, but then Ryan Johnson's later career made me not want to put him on here.
No, but still, it's a great first movie.
The Knives Out guy?
Yeah. And then Greta Gerwig with Lady Bird. I think that was a fantastic opening movie. I love Lady Bird.
Zach, you ready?
Ready. Hit me.
John Huston, The Maltese Falcon, Sam Raimi, Evil Dead, Chris Columbus, Adventures in Babysitting, the Coen Brothers, Blood Simple, Cameron Crowe, Say Anything, Frank Darabont, Shawshank Redemption, Kevin Smith, Clerks, Jason Reitman, Thank You for Smoking, Ben Affleck on Baby Gone, Jared Hess, Napoleon Dynamite, Mark Webb, 500 Days of Summer, Joseph Kaczynski, Tron Legacy, which I really like, but some people don't.
I love it.
Alex Garland, Ex Machina, Dan Trachtenberg, 10 Cloverfield Lane, Jordan Peele, Get Out, Neil Blomkamp, District 9, Ari Aster, Hereditary, Robert Eggers, The Witch, Toby Hooper, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Martin McDonough in Bruges.
Wow. I like Adventures in Babysitting.
Me too.
Elizabeth Shue.
I should have done mine in one breath. I had more.
Let's not talk about the bad ones.
Yeah.
Let's keep it positive.
Yeah,
There's
get
too
positive
many.
at the end. So there you go. There is our picks for our film debuts of film directors that you may have heard of and may not have heard of. But if we missed any that you would like, I don't know how we could, considering Kent's laundry list that he just gave. Very impressive, by the way.
Thank you.
But we want to hear about it. We want to hear from you on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Did you learn anything today about directors? Were you shocked by any of our picks, whether it was a hot take or you're like, I had no idea that was that director?
Joel hates teens in the 80s.
Apparently.
Joel hates anything in the last 25 years.
Kent hates anything before that.
Yes.
But let us know on Facebook, let us know on Instagram, let us know on Twitter /X, because we want to hear from you on social media. We love to hear from you.
We do.
But before we go, I'd like to give some love to our patrons, those that support what we do here in the Bacon Cave and help keep the lights on, including the I'm the Listener tier, which includes Taylor Sanderson, Some Guy, Sir and Madam Hicks, Shannon West, Scott, To the Window, To the Farm, Till the Sweat Fall Down my arm, Do These Pets No Harm, Sprague.
I got a little worried there.
Brian and Marley, Rocky and Steph, Lady Terry Finley, Juice the Cool King Swallow, Jennifer Kukowski, Casey Cummings, Angela Plotz, Alicia Bass, and Adam and Rachel Crump. And then we have the Bacon Council, which includes the other Brit, Johnny English, the one, the only Chris Anderson, Stephen, everyone's favorite Ross, Star Wars expert Kyler, our favorite couple, the Mansons, Nicole D. Kell, Her Royal Highness Jessica Terry, Glo Daniel, Debbie Foster, and Beaker.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. You are the Piranha 2 to our The Spawning. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. You can find me performing with Quickwits. They perform at the Midville Performing Arts Center and the studio at the Parker Theater. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kenny3DD. You can read my movie reviews at ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so on X and Instagram at Tumbling Mustard. But more importantly, make sure you're following Baconsale. Please like the Facebook page and then go to X or Instagram at Baconsale.
Just call it Twitter. Yeah.
And after you've done that, go to tpublic.com/Baconsale, get yourself some merch. And then if you like what we're doing here, go to patreon.com/Baconsale. You support starts at just $3 a month and you can get the, I don't know, what we get for our birthdays mostly this time of year. Patreon.com/Baconsale.
So until next time. Oh, look, a debut. No, wait, that's a water buffalo. How familiar are you guys with VeggieTales? Debut. Sing it with me. The
That's not happening.
just like that. Dave. Dang it.
They.
2 takes already. It's fine.
Well, Ken's going to put his pet cricket up there.
The one.
Jiminy.
And I'm Zach.
We'd like to thank you for listening to our last show.
My name. I know a tint guy. 7 is a better number than 5.
Would I go on a Maverick run with them? We'll see.
Mine's Werther's, and my favorite restaurant is Cracker Barrel. Checkmate.
He's always getting injured. His back is horrible.
Yes.
You know more about Alfred Hitchcock than Jacob.
Zach loves 7.
All 7s.
7's the best number.
And this piranha
It's-
just jumped out of a dead body.
They're coming around like people are coming around on Pinkerton.
2 stumblebum and 2 what?
Stumblebum? Harry the Platypus. That on the
Middle
show.
frog syndrome.
We're talking about National Lampoon's cigarettes and Budweiser.
Yeah,
Budweiser.
What has happened to Baconsale?
Baconsale season 10.
I like knocking the cabin.
Save it for our iPhone face episode.
All
right.
who's next? Tier 1.
Yeah. Baconsale proof.
Baconsale proof. Boop.
I'm a complicated man, Kent.
Carry on this. Bud.
Why?